welcome to Life Support Live, the weekly live show that explores how Star Trek can help us to boldly go in our old lives to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
As a famous starship captain once said, and another famous starship captain once said, who we're about to see a lot more of, wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way.
Hello, everyone. I am psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu.
And I am Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek. One of us is a real doctor.
As always, we'll leave it to you to determine who that might be. On this week's episode, we are talking confirmation bias. Larry, probably one of the easiest topic names we've ever had to come up with, since it was name dropped in this week's show of Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, but you know what? It's been a journey of discovery for me, because I'd only heard that term the last few years. And I always thought it was this academic, scientific, whatever, investigators term that was some highfalutin specialized thing. And it turns out, no, it's kind of like got everyday application. It just sounds fancy-wancy.
It's still highfalutin, but it's also has a lot of applicability. So let us know.
Words. I'll see you out back by the cement pond. Okay.
Let us know, folks, what's your favorite example of confirmation bias in Star Trek? Let us know in the comments, wherever they might be. Larry, what is this?
Maybe you should say, before we talk about Life Support Live, before we go any further, somebody's head might be spinning, because this is not sitting here talking about suicide or trauma or clicks or something. I mean, what is confirmation bias, real quick, first?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Confirmation bias. Here.
Yeah, confirmation bias is it's a problem in how we interpret information, specifically in how we might look for information that already fits in with the way we see the world and our past experiences, or interpreting information, not the person, interpreting data in a way that fits in with our pre-existing beliefs, our past, our own biases. So a lot of times we might expect things to be a certain way because of our own biases, or we might interpret things in the way that kind of already makes sense.
Even when we don't intend to.
Oh, especially when we don't intend to.
Especially we don't intend to. So if we, there's a lot of layman talk versions of this. Like if we say, oh, he's looking at it through he's got his so-and-so filter on, or his lenses on, I'm looking at this through a fill in the blank perspective. That's all part of that ballpark, right?
Yeah, it's all part of that, and this can be a term that also represents a lot of other things. I mean, you can take this and apply this towards prejudice. You can take this and apply it towards a lot of things. I think for the purposes of our show this week, and keeping to the theme of this coming from this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery, I think a good way to think about it is when you go out and you're already looking at the information in a way that will fit in with what you already believe, or you're taking in information in a way that you already believe. It's like the scientist who believes that down is up and spends their whole careers trying to prove that. And every piece of data that comes to them, they interpret it in a way of, how does this support down is up? Not that, hey, actually, there's a lot of data that supports that down is down and up is up. You know what I mean?
Okay. So there can be intentionality to being But I talk a lot about people, get out of your own ruts, get out of your don't be caught with your filters, with your blinders on like a horse, old days. But sometimes you can't help, but even with the best of intentions, you can't help but be caught that way until something, you get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of people that set out to, if they're part of a camp, whether it's benign, like I used to know a guy who was the radical Hale theorist, and out of the 8 Hale scientists in the country.
Oh, I thought you meant like hailing frequency. Yeah.
Well, I hear with global warming that the hailing frequency is going to be going up, but No, this was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I worked with a woman, and her husband at the time was a hail scientist,
Mm,
and there were only like eight of them in the country anyway.
yeah.
But he was the guy with the radical theory about hail and hail formation. And so he was like the out of eight people, he's the oddball. But it's like if but when there's so everything he sampled, everything he the way he viewed everything was confirming his
Right.
theories and
Right.
hypotheses.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think we've got some good examples from Star Trek that people, I know Glinda just said, I'm having trouble thinking of specific Trek episodes, just thinking about how the rise of the internet and social media has worsened confirmation bias. Um, Charlotte,
Yeah.
hopefully once we start
Get
sharing
out of your
some,
bubble.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully when we start sharing some examples, it'll become kind of clear what
Okay.
there's a lot of examples in Star Trek
Mhm.
that references, and you're also right. One of my favorite terms, Larry, my favorite psychological terms is the nasty effect, and
Tell me more.
what the nasty effect refers to is how the comments section of a blog, a
Mm.
video, whatever it might be, how it tends to be the people who post there tend to be the ones who have very strong views, either supporting or
Mhm.
negating what has been said. And just the act of the nasty effect refers to what happens when you see those polarized views, because it tends to further push you
Mhm.
into the direction that you already are.
Well,
Um, right. Oh, totally. Well, I did have very strong feelings about the uniforms in this episode, but apparently now I do. Um, and I think what you were talking about with the hail scientists, I think that also maps on to sometimes what we see with a lot of the reviews and the rants about new Star Trek episodes. So there's a lot for us to discuss in this week's episode. But let's kind of get into it, Larry. Let's open up that briefing room. The
well, I deflected you to talk about confirmation bias. And we might have one or two people out there who just stumbled in who don't know what we're doing here.
Larry, can you tell them what we might be doing here?
Oh, yes.
What is live
Q
support live?
Q delivered for Mr. John Luke Pickard. Okay.
Jean Luc, is there a Jean Luc Picard here?
A CUE, yeah, delivery. It's the CUE continuum. That's what it is. Yeah. No, apparently it's aside from Bad Pun Central, it's Life Support Live. If you're new to us this week, if you're new with us, welcome. This is just a place we hang out, we geek out about Star Trek, and as you can tell, we have a theme each week. And I used to say when we have fresh track, well, that's going to go on. That extends the horizon for right now. But we talk about that point, inspired by the latest new Trek, fresh Trek, but also looking across the whole franchise. So maybe you come away with something for your daily life, and hopefully you come away with a lot more fun Star Trek. And we have a great community here. The lifers are on chat. If you're new to us, make sure and have your chat window open or be paying attention to it, because a lot of stuff's going to fly by, not in an annoying way, but in a way you can dig in and you'll get to meet a lot of folks, good folks that are lifers here today. But yeah, we actually have a structure, and we're about to jump into the mission. What do we call it? The briefing room. That's what it is. Uh, but Dr. Ali is going to bring up some tips and some an away mission at the end, and Dr. Trek will have a little behind the scenes K3 factor for you. But and make sure and be with us through the end of the show, because we have some news to announce.
We
at
do
the
have
end of
some
the show.
news. Yeah, we do have some news. Larry, I gotta say this. I've never had a more easier time coming up with the topic than this week. So if we do, we're not gonna spoil it. We're not gonna spoil it, but I do want to
tell.
just show this discussion. Because this discussion, it's the very first few moments of this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. Not only did it have a lot of universal translators. But the discussion that's unfolding between these individuals is really about confirmation bias. They name drop the term. It's so rare for me to get a psychological term name dropped in an episode of Star Trek Discovery.
And there's not a Cornwell or a Culber in sight.
No, no, there's not. There's not. But
Those amateurs.
I love this scene
Yeah.
for a few reasons because one, people who are not potentially mental health professionals are using psychological science in their life, and I know oh, Larry, what's his name with the wonderful glasses here? I'm
Oh,
blanking.
Kovic.
Kovic. Yeah, a few things.
The
I love his
character with no background.
I love his character for a number of reasons. One, he's not he talks a lot about psychological stuff, which I love. But Larry, when was the last time we saw someone with glasses on Star Trek besides Kirk in Wrath of Khan? Have we seen anyone
Oh,
else wearing glasses? I kind of
well,
love
it's
this.
such a retro throwback century because they don't care about looking like they're in the future because they are. No,
Because well, they got programmable matter. Their cells
yeah,
are floating,
yep,
Larry. It's the
yep,
future.
yep, yep. I got floating the cells. Any questions? Like, big boy. Yeah. So yeah, it's a style thing. It's just an affectation. It's like mustaches, glasses. It's yeah, Kovic in disguise. That's
Kovic in disguise. Oh, we are Kovic in disguise. I love this
wow.
conversation. I love it for a number of reasons, but it does speak to a
Wait,
large
their conversation,
their
not ours.
conversation. No, no, no. Our
Okay.
conversation. This is trash. Uh, I love that they are. There's an indictment of universal translators, and what they're saying is just because you hear doesn't mean you understand, and you are bringing all of your stuff is biasing the way you're hearing and understanding other people. And it speaks to a larger theme of what is this DMA? Who's the species behind it? Why are they doing it? And everyone is seeing it with their own bias. This is a weapon. No, it's not. It's something else. Blah, blah, blah. Who are these people? What are their motivations? This conversation is a reminder to Starfleet, to the Federation, to
Hmm.
Titan and Earth, to all these people, that we might be very biased and have no idea who these people are because of confirmation bias. I love that, Larry.
Alrighty then. No, I mean part of this is, I mean, we talk about this issue a lot. We just say, well, you're trapped in your assumptions, or you're just not allowing for the unknowable. I mean, we this is an issue that's danced around in different ways, and like I said, it can be malignant or benign in intention. But this is kind of a new way of looking at all of that spectrum with a new frame to me.
Yeah,
Whether you intend to or not, whether you're normally good at it and you get tripped up once. I mean, part of what's annoying here is like I think I'm going to jump ahead here a little bit, but I think one of the most, if that's purely the definition, then one of the most famous confirmation bias moments we have is Darmok, and knowing that the
right.
translators are working, but I still have gibberish because they're not good enough. I
Yeah.
mean, when they pull out the translator museum there, which I thought was hysterical. Why did you go down to the museum? And I think it's great that even after the burn, we still have, like a 2360. We have an Archer era translator there stuck in it's the communicator stuck in the translator. But I was like, why did we have to go out, and it's like a little prop porn there. It's like, okay, did you really have to go haul these out to say these are pointless? But I mean,
You would have
it's
thought that maybe they just like toss up some holograms. Kovac would have just been like, "Here, remember these?"
yes.
Yeah. And
But
why
anyway,
why
that
also does the history stop at the 24th century? I mean, they continue to have it, but it's okay. It's a cool
I know,
prop
I know.
effect.
It's like, why does all music have to be either classical or rock from the 20th century? But anyway, but no, it's like, well, this is just a standard old first contact protocol discussion in some ways.
Yeah.
It's like da da da. But it's when they drag out the translators and they're talking about, beware of these, they'll only get you so far. Like, don't use these as a crutch. I mean, it's kind of hysterical because in the 60s, Universal Translators, look, we're trying to talk with you. We're not just running in. They were a symbol of communication, of open-endedness. It's fun. I was sitting there thinking, so we've gone from this being a wonderful invention to foster contact and communication to, oh, don't lean on that. That's just a crutch. It might steer you wrong.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
I mean, I think we could definitely spend our whole episode just talking about this scene. We're not going to, but we could.
The fact where they have to even sit around a table and talk about this at all. So I'm going, okay, that's their post-burn rustiness.
I think it's partially that. I think there hasn't been new first contact in a while. I think that's number one because of the burn. And I'm not talking about time being the fire in which we burn. No. I'm talking about the lack of dilithium being the distance in which we burn.
Right.
So I think they're rusty. I also think the stakes on first contact have never...
There's no external looking. Everybody, if you know it, they're either a friend or an ally, and let's work on a friend or an enemy, and let's work on not having them be an enemy. But there's no new horizons.
Yeah, they've been isolationists. They've been isolationists and xenophobic because they've been so distanced from each other. I think that's a lot of the commentary of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, which I think was brilliant, especially... It just happened to happen during a time of massive social distancing. That was really brilliant. But here we're seeing the consequences of that. Absolutely. So yeah, I agree with you. They're rusty. But the stakes, they've never had first contact with a species that is so technologically superior to everyone.
Could be last contact.
Yeah. Could be last contact. That's great. Star Trek starts with first contact and it ends with last contact. Why not? What a great way to bookend.
Where's my trademark lawyer?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Register that domain name, Larry.
Lastcontact.com. It's just a black, empty, yawning space.
It's so
Sounds
easy.
like the Time Planet.
So easy to design that. So I think the stakes are important. I mean, first contact with the Dominion wasn't too great, and they were a new type of threat that the Alpha Quadrant hadn't quite experienced before. But it's nothing on this level.
3 threats in one.
Threats in one. Yeah. It was like multiple first contact. It's like you're also part of the Dominion. God, the Jebediah. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, who's behind this? The Vorta, right? Oh no, it's someone else. The founders.
Are you a founder? No, I'm not a founder.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a who's on first situation, but with the Dominion. But no one has seen a species that can create something like the DMA. This is on another order of magnitude, and it's also extra galaxy contact.
Galactic, we would say.
Extra galactic contact, which we also haven't seen. Larry, can you give me a little? I promise, folks, we're going to get into examples, but we crossed this Great Barrier. The last time we saw a Great Barrier, it was at the center of the galaxy in Star Trek V. Right.
This is a little bit like all of a sudden they decided that there's the buffer zone with the Klingons was also called a neutral zone, not something else clever.
Right. Right.
It's the movie era when nobody's really paying attention. So now we've got an energy barrier at the center of the galaxy, which normally we just say, well, there's a black hole there, and and there's a buffer, there's an event horizon that keeps us away from it. But no, we've got to have an energy barrier at the, it's like, oh, we're trapped. We're like in the energy barrier galactic sandwich, and we're the stuffing. With little thin bread on both sides. But anyway. Well, technically Star Trek V, the classical barrier at the edge of the galaxy, though everybody thinks about Where No Man in Pilot 2 in the second pilot, but it was also a trope that they used twice, two other times with different for different reasons.
Right.
One very well used, and one just kind of thrown in as incidental incident in the plot. But the Kelvin invasion, not the Kelvin timeline, but the actual Kelvin Empire from
Oh,
Andromeda,
yeah.
who had bizarre forms and they took human forms because they could, and then they were trapped and seduced by them. It was their Achilles heel, and they didn't even know who Achilles was. Um, that was a case where they very studiously said, "Okay, we're heading home, so it'll be 900 light years here, so batten down the hatches, guys."
Trapped and
Um,
seduced by the Kelvin side they were.
the Kelvin side, it's over here. That's the Kelvin side. But I mean, and to their credit, they reused stock footage from Where No Man, and then once they were out of the galaxy, they didn't have the fancy budget and the CGI that they do on Discovery. But once they were out, they were traversed. It was like a black void, which I thought was cool. It was easier than having to mat in stars in the '60s. And then there was stock footage in uh, the Medusans and Dr. Jones, Miranda Jones, and I've just gone blank. It's a stupid named episode with a million words. Is there in truth no beauty? But people forget that we went out of the barrier 3 times. I'd forgotten to laugh at Star Trek 5. But we had it because it was a concept that a lot of people soon thought was hokey. So no one wanted to actually go back and touch that. And then early in Next Gen, when the Enterprise D leaves the galaxy because of artificial means, they just totally bypass it. It's like
Yeah.
whatever highfalutin warp bubble they're in, it's not even an issue. They don't even mess. They just go from here to bang, we're in the M5 galaxy or something. Anyway, they're in like a distant neighbor galaxy, and nobody worried about how they got out of here. And that's the last time it was an issue. So
Yeah.
suddenly
Space
the galactic barrier is not so hokey.
space is funky.
Cold and dark and oh no.
Full of disease and death.
Yeah, Kelvin quote. Come on, give me some.
No, hey!
It was a McCoy Kelvin quote.
Of course, you'd go to but it's a very well delivered line. All she left me with are my bones. So, Larry,
Okay, don't do that one. Okay.
okay, I had a point about the galactic barrier. I don't remember it now, but
It was symbolic. It was scientific.
no, I don't remember it. It's okay.
Psychological.
It's okay.
Sorry.
No, I don't remember it, but that was a great aside. There was a lot of things on that side that were really great for us. Let's make sure we dive into this briefing room, the part of the show.
Oh, structure.
Where we are exploring examples from the greater Star Trek. Larry, let's start with TOS. You one of your favorites.
Well, see, once you unleash this term on me, I was like, oh, well, we always think of certain scenes.
bias.
Confirmation bias. The dopey game where you're just thinking wrong. Okay.
Or are you?
Or are you? No, I mean, yeah, we look at these characters and scenes in and out of Star Trek, and we always like have a term to apply for it.
Yeah.
Like, basically, I'm thinking here, and then maybe First Contact, also the movie. What we always think of as the Captain Ahab complex, or that's when you're obsessed and you're driven, and all the information coming at you is processed a certain way. Is that like what? Because what I said, and then you said yes, was the minute you said everything we take in, we tend to collect. We steer that way to prove our point, our theory. Decker in Doomsday Machine, they attack the Doomsday Machine once. He loses the constellation. All you had, Commodore, is a wrecked ship and a dead crew. We weren't close enough then. This time I'm going to hit it with full phasers at point blank range.
Yes.
And he says, and Spock says, that is illogical. Anyway, but that dawned on me that would be, it's in a time of panic and stress. But would that be confirmation bias?
Yeah, I think it's a great example. I know it's one of your favorite
episodes. Did you put the picture up?
I did.
Put it up again. I want to see Doomsday Machine. Oh, you got I sent you Kirk, Spock, and Decker.
You did not? Oh, did you? Wait. Oh, yes, you did. Here it is. Here it is.
It's
It's a
one of my
beautiful
favorite scenes
image.
in the whole.
It's a
Yes.
beautiful image you sent us. You can see the confirmation bias all over his face.
Yeah. I'm doing this, damn it. I'm going to do this, damn it. Nothing you can say will sway me.
Yeah. So there's one of the we could turn a confirmation bias discussion really big and broad, but I think this is a good example of it because what happens with confirmation bias is it's easier for you to focus on the information that fits. It's easier for you to remember information that already supports the view you want to have. It's like there's all this information out there, and you kind of zoom in on the stuff that can somehow support what you already want to do, and that's
It
all.
reminds me of like a big fruit tree, and what you want to do is get the low-hanging fruit and the prettiest fruit instead of like going through the whole tree and finding all the cherries
Yeah,
that might be different to the. I mean, yeah,
yeah, and what's beautiful for you to you might be different than what it is for Spock, but it's
cherry.
information that fits is easy for you to accept, and it's hard actually to focus on the information that doesn't fit or that might conflict with what you want to do.
Or it doesn't. Or like I said, even benignly, it might not even register.
It might not register. Yeah, yeah. It's just easy and automatic.
Hello,
And
home soil.
the Doomsday Machine is a great example that ties into. Can I jump way forward, Larry, in the timeline?
Please jump way
Yeah.
forward.
So
Well, the
it reminds
you
me.
had did you bring your angels, your red angel suit?
I do. I do. I'm gonna jump forward a little over 100 years here. Probably close to. Well, with the time jump in this episode, it's probably more than 100 years. Anyways, I want to talk about Timeless, and this is the 100th episode of Star Trek
Voyager.
Voyager, and this is and it's surprisingly an Ensign Kim episode. It's an episode in which
Go figure.
future Kim is trying to prevent a mistake he made that resulted in most of the Voyager crew dying. He changes back history to try to prevent it, and the same thing happens, Larry. Even though he's warned off by
Mhm.
Geordi, he engages in the exact same problem. And he does it for a third time, and this time he makes a few changes so that Voyager is saved, but it doesn't return to the Alpha Quadrant. But he likely engaged in that exact same mistake because he kept interpreting the data over and over again the way he wanted. And the way he wanted to interpret it is, how do I not only save that crew, but how do I get him home? This is my responsibility. I need to fix it. I need to get him
Mhm.
home. He keeps seeing data the way he wants to see it. And it has a tragic ending in when those events are replayed.
Yes. So yeah, we jumped ahead in time on several fronts there. But yeah, I mean, to me, once this got out of the highfalutin category, confirmation bias really is an umbrella term that a lot of different angles, whether it's premeditated or not, whatever the circumstances are, the basic concept can be applied to a lot of things we already call by a different term. And there's kind of a family of dynamics, like what's the
Hmm.
mood and the tone and the intention. But the basic thing is whether you're doing it accidentally or on purpose, you're doing the thing. You're missing the point of new data because you're locked into your frame and you're not seeing it. You're not getting it. You're not getting the new angle,
Yeah, it's quite dangerous when it comes
new
to
paradigm.
it's very dangerous when it comes to science and research. And here I want to bounce back and talk about an example where we both see and don't see confirmation bias. And of course, Larry, when I'm talking about science and I'm talking about Star Trek, I want to talk about Genesis. I want to talk about Star Trek 3.
Oh. Hmm.
And I want to talk about two things with
This is theme forbidden. No, it's not.
yeah, theme forbidden. I want to talk about a couple of things with the Genesis project in Star Trek 3. The Klingons, of course, see the Genesis project as what, Larry? What do they see it as?
It's really cool.
As
Oh no, as a weapon.
as what? So I think that's an example too, where this what they witness is a federation has a device that created this new planet, but they interpret it as a weapon. That this is something that can reconstitute any planet you want in a way you want it to become. It's like instant terraforming slash instant destruction of whoever might be living there, right? So they interpret it as a weapon, even though that's not how it was intended. I can see very similar discussions here happening with nuclear technology. This could be a great energy source. It's also can be a devastating weapon. Now, what I think is great about David as a scientist is before he does die in that movie, he acknowledges that it's a bit of a failed experiment, that the planet is unstable. And unfortunately, we don't get to spend more time with David or with the science, and it's never really mentioned.
Well, it's. I always love the way they say, the planet is unstable," and then David goes, "Well, I did use protomatter as a shortcut," and we're all supposed to know, like, "Oh no, did you use protomatter?" But it's like, okay, is that supposed to mean something? It's Star Trek. We're getting a movie every 2 years. We don't know this stuff. You guys
Right.
change every 2 years.
Right.
What is that supposed to mean? Is that a bad thing? Oh, I guess it is. I always love
It's
the
not
way
a
it's
bad
just
thing.
kind of,
One day, Larry, one day they'll learn how to make an engine
it's
out of
not
that.
a matter cold. Oh wait, that's not that. Okay.
One day they'll learn how to make an engine out of that and use it to explore space. And there will be a CGI
The
Janeway.
matter, choo choo. Won't you choo choo me? I don't know. It's yeah. But I just love the way it's like, ooh, he used protomatter, and we're all sitting in the theater going, okay, is that a bad thing? I don't. Okay. I
But
just
and I'm sitting there
you,
thinking,
Mister. I came in with, was it 4 or 6? You came in with.
oh, 6. Yeah,
Yeah,
undiscovered country.
Mr. Caboose. Yes, you, Mister. I came in with
Mr.
6.
Caboose.
When we were all watching 3, we were like, okay, that's a thing. Okay, okay, fine.
I love 3. It's one of my favorite odd number
Oh, it's
stuff.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love
It's one of my favorite odd numbered movies. Yeah.
yeah. I love how much it expands the universe, all the new starships we see. Christopher Lloyd is great. He's such a great Klingon. Whoever thought of the idea of casting Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon? Mission accomplished.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene. But Larry, David. So not only with the proto matter, like, oh, I did a shortcut, but like I'm also thinking like you also fired it on a planet that was not your, like that was not a designed experiment. It's we can sort of blame Khan for that. Like, that was not how you designed things to be. But anyways,
But it wasn't fired at a planet at all. Remember?
no, it was just in
He
the Mutara
took the
Nebula.
nebula matter
Yeah,
and the Enterprise.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's not. Yeah, this was not the well-designed experiment that David wanted. But anyways, he does accept at the end the data that like this way in the way that it has happened. This is a bit of a failed experiment. It's unstable. And it's really unfortunate he does not get to live longer, and we don't get to see. It's not an episode. I wonder if there's some novels that kind of fill in the blanks of what happened to the Genesis project after that. Was it shut down? Did it continue? Who knows? But I think there's some good examples of confirmation bias of both the Klingons as well as a scientist who is interpreting the data with that bias there.
You never heard of the next one?
The Voyage Home?
No, they called it the Exodus Project.
No.
Okay, that's the only two Bible books I know in order without jumping around. But
No,
okay,
what happens there?
that's I don't know enough Bible to tell you. No, that's the next chapter after it's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. I don't
Oh,
know.
oh, Larry, I thought you were,
It's
I thought you were talking Bible, but I thought there was some kind of show Bible you were talking about some
no, no,
Genesis
no. I
series.
sucked you in. Yeah,
You
I know,
sucked
I know.
me in. Yes, you did.
So your confirmation bias about all Trek all the time was showing there. Is that what happened?
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Mhm.
That's funny. Ha 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 ha.
It wasn't even that big a deal, but okay, okay.
That was my bad. That was me doing an impression of you doing an impression of Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon.
Okay.
Um, Moving
Well,
right along here, Larry, let's go to the next generation. And there is a
yep.
wonderful example of confirmation bias here.
Yes. And you popped, I thought of some other ideas, but you popped this one up, so I thought I'd run with it.
Uh,
There's no good scene in the show that illustrates what we're trying to say.
no.
I was thinking there was a time when they both were yelling at each other over the models, but there's not. They're in surgery, and then this is the after surgery. But this is ethics.
Is the name of the episode just ethics?
Hmm.
Wow. How
Because
unoriginal.
medical ethics, they wanted people to watch the show, so they didn't call it medical ethics. Yeah.
What a name. If this was a TOS episode, it would have been named something like
For the spine is hollow, and I have touched the science.
no, that would be a Discovery episode name.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a couple of Discovery episodes in the original series.
If this was an
Yeah.
Enterprise name, it would have been named Worf's Backbone. Uh,
If it was an early TNG, it would have been the debate.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Thank God it happened after Michael settled in. Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this is a
And if it
wonderful.
was it was a no, if it was a Voyager episode, it would have been some science term that applied, that some weird term that Brannon heard of and used. Like uh wait, isn't there a term they use for what she's doing? Um what's the term? A genetronic.
Oh,
Yeah.
right,
It
right.
would be called genetronica or something.
So this is a great episode. This it's a great Beverly episode, but it is every now and then Star Trek does these wonderful, wonderful medical ethical conflict episodes. Bashir gets a great one. The Doctor gets a
And they
good
get
one.
to wear the red surgery outfits.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Michael Westmore is really happy. Ooh, new uniforms. Um,
Bob Blackwell.
Blob back. Wow. Blob back. Yes, thank you, Larry.
You can't even you're so shocked. You can't even say. Yes, Blob Backwell. Huge guy. He would come floating in and yeah, okay. Just design up a storm and people
The
would somehow
inspiration behind the character on Star Trek Prodigy just says Blob. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay, back to the medical ethics. Let's talk ethics here. So we have a visiting doctor who just so happens to be
Toby Russell. I can't believe I remember her name. Yes.
she does a great job in this role, but she is playing this doctor who is playing very loose with medical ethics, using
Oh, she's a fearless innovator.
she
There's
is
your confirmation bias.
the
Yeah.
Genetronics, this new wave of medicine, experimental.
As opposed to the gin and tonics, but go ahead.
Yeah, those are not very experimental. But she does a few things that that are unethical. Number one is informed consent. So one of the things with research is the people who are participating in research need to know that they're participating in research and give their permission to be in it. They need to know the risks. And one of the things that we see this doctor doing is subjecting people to her experimental treatments without them really knowing what the risks are. Number two, it's also research that has not really been reviewed by any what we call
That's why
institutional.
we call her Toby Tuskegee Russell.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, just like the Tuskegee syphilis study here. The other thing, Larry, is there's no institutional review board. So what we have now is whenever you're doing research at any type of institution, there are boards that have to approve your research. And most of those boards have a diverse group of people, including public members, people who are not medical professionals, who don't have any bias in research, who have to say,
You're
yes, this is okay to do.
you're talking about all the anti-mad scientist commissions.
I'm talking about a lot of the stuff that came out of Tuskegee and a lot of the stuff that came out of World War II. A lot of things that have been set up to protect people from unethical research. She's sort of
Right.
bypassing all of that, and some of her people
No,
died.
Dr. Soong, you have to stop or else leave. Oh, I'll leave. Okay.
Right. Let me just work with androids here.
I'll take this elsewhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The one of the critical moments in this episode is where this doctor gives this dying patient her treatment, and that person dies, and Beverly says, like, if you treated them with the normal stuff, they might have lived. And she responds with, but the research we're gaining here, this is going to go on to save so many more people, right?
Yeah.
So confirmation bias here, her belief that my treatment, there's no way that anything bad's going to happen to Worf, that he's had this injury. By the way, Larry, that injury is so stupid. Why doesn't the Enterprise computer is pretty smart, right? Why doesn't it turn off gravity when big giant cargo boxes are falling on crew members? All you have to do is turn off gravity. Worf would have never been injured. I don't get it. I don't get
Turn it. Well, that was instantaneous. What do you mean? You want a sensor to tell when there's a large body in motion that's dropping with What's the response time on that? And then what
It's
if
gonna
well,
be
then,
fast.
but if the barrel is falling and the gravity turns off, then you float up and you hit it anyway. I don't.
But you might gently just kind of. It's gonna be
But then the
wings.
object is still floating. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you can just immediately turn off gravity there. I guess you could argue that there's inertia, and so maybe if there's inertia, the box would keep falling, and it has some velocity, and
But then it would have to be highly localized, or else everybody else on that deck who was doing something that weren't in danger, maybe they're thrown into a situation because you suddenly turned the
Right.
gravity.
Right.
Warning, gravity alert. Ah! I mean,
That's true. That's true. That's true. You'd
you
have
and
to
your
have like.
mad technology. What are you going to do? Come up with next? Programmable gravity?
That's about as silly as the cells floating off the hull, Ollie.
Floating to cell.
I guess you would have to have localized inertial
I still don't
dampeners
understand what's the benefit of that. I still
too.
don't.
Worf wouldn't need a new backbone. That's the benefit of that.
No, I meant floating to cells, but okay, fine.
Well, so this episode does a lot of other great things. It also speaks to a patient's right to die. What is that? It speaks to culture and Klingon culture and rituals and Riker's rejection of that. There's so much good stuff in this episode.
An episode titled Ethics is one that you enjoy. I'm just so shocked.
I am one of those rare people when it comes to like continuing education and all that sort of stuff. I love ethics stuff because ethics is whenever you learn about ethics, you think it's like right and
You
wrong.
do.
I love ethics so much. People think ethics is like, oh, well, this is right and that's wrong. Don't do this, do that. But no, every ethical discussion is always gray. And there aren't a lot of clear answers of what to do. It's fascinating, Larry. That's a bad claim.
Gray
That's a
alert.
gray.
Gray alert.
Do we have a gray alert?
Well, we do now. Okay. It's
I also love the black alert. It's such a unnerving sound. It's like black alert. It's such a weird sound. I love it.
almost like professionals thought all this up. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, confirmation bias. She cannot believe that her experiment won't work, even though in lower levels, in much less intensive stuff, she's had failures. She sees
Mm-hmm.
nothing but potential success here for Worf. And the surgery would have failed had it not been for all that wacky secondary systems that the Klingons have that Beverly wasn't even aware of herself. I mean, they pronounced Worf dead for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
But now
so
here's a case where, unlike, I always preach about how weird it is the Vulcans are so, people dump on Sarek, but the Vulcans are kind of bizarre themselves culturally because they've been fellow co-founders of the Federation and they've known each other for 200 years and worked together and nobody knows about Ponfar. But here's a case
I
where,
know.
like how are they going to they're going to interact their service, and they're not telling the human and other species doctors what's central to human biology. But here's a case where Worf, it's not typical to have Klingons, and somehow nobody ever dissected a dead Klingon on the battlefield to look and go, oh look, my God, they've got two of oh, they have two of everything. Okay, but but like no one's ever done that. But okay, fine. This is still TNG days, and it was a new thing to have Riker. That was a new So anyway, it's at least tolerable here versus like the Vulcan example. So the fact that Beverly gets to go, oh, they've got two of everything, we'll allow it, but because it's obviously a fact or whatever. Yeah,
We'll allow it. Cairo probably
proceed. Yeah.
says it best. Ollie, you want to censor the ship that instantly turns off anything that makes a good story to tell? Well played, Cairo. I understand. I understand.
There's an old parody. Oh, I haven't done this in years. There's an old parody from that Dr. Demento used to have a Star Trek that they would play. It was called Star Trek. And I remember there's one point in the show where they're like, blah, blah, something happened, and you hear the alarm go off. Warning, this is a plot complication. Warning, this is a plot complication.
I love that. I love that. I also love Glinda saying,
Yeah.
Genetronic. Oh, wait. Glinda says,
Yeah.
Genetronica sounds like a friend of Arachnia.
Arachnia.
That's great. That's great. Who knew that the next generation's ethics would take us into such conversation? Larry, let's jump forward to the next series and an example that I am sure no one sees coming. Like Ensign Kim, let's talk about a character we never talk enough about. You guessed it, we're talking about Morn. Let's talk about Morn. And Larry, I've got a question for you.
Let's talk about Morn and me. Let's talk about
Larry, I got a question. Who mourns for Morn? Who
Well, Morn
mourns?
does apparently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who mourns for Morn?
So this example, I know might feel like it's coming out of left field for a lot of folks, but I think
for this team.
yeah, but I think there's some great examples of confirmation bias in Who Mourns for Morn. Not only is this such a lovely and fun episode, not only is it a Quark episode and simultaneously a Morn episode, not only does it not break the rule of Morn saying... It's a whole episode in which Morn doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But it's an episode...
Who knew?
Yeah.
Who saw that coming? Yeah.
It's great because Morn is faking his own death here, and he's relying on people to act in a way that's consistent with their biases. And also, the episode ends with Morn sort of surprising everyone, surprising Quark at least, about where this latinum is stored, because he stores it in a way in which no one would ever think that it's going to be stored. I love this episode because it's depending on bias,
Everybody
and it challenges
stores
it.
liquids in their rudimentary stomach in the 21st century. Is that like not widely known? How is
Klingons
that
might. They have a second one. They probably have a second stomach, as they have second everything else.
They have two of everything. Yes. Okay.
Anything to say
Yes.
about Who Mourns for Morn, Larry?
No, because I don't want to denigrate the spirit of Morn himself in the memory. So no, I'm not going to say a thing. Well, no, it was. I mean, of all the episodes and the moments and the situations to think of now that getting my head wrapped around this, who mourns for Morn is not the one that would have popped up first. But so, what was the core element of this? We need to move on, but I'm still trying to go. It's the fact that no
Well,
one
well,
thought.
well. Quark is reacting to the information in a way that Morn completely predicted and relied on. Like he faked his death, knowing that people are going to react to the information in predictable ways, in ways that are consistent with their own biases, and he's relying on all of that to happen so that uh,
Okay,
these threats are sort of cleared out. And he knows no one's going to find where his latinum actually is because no one's ever going to expect it to be in that place. It's like a it's like a great reverse episode of Columbo. You know what I mean?
I was going to say this almost sounds like you're not confirmationally biased, but you're employing.
Yeah.
It's like mystery manipulation or something. It's like you're employing everybody else's confirmation bias to get your way.
Yes. Yes.
To okay.
Yeah. And I think there's a few Star Trek episodes that kind of work in this way, where they know people are gonna do certain things. I just love how Morn does it. There was an Enterprise example I wanted to share.
So predictable. Uh-huh.
There was an Enterprise episode I wanted to share. A night in sickbay. This is a fall. I think Zahir said it, where he said earlier that he's been thinking of, when it comes to this week's themes, I'm thinking of my favorite First Contact episodes. And one of the infamous First Contact episodes,
Which apparently was not the galactic barrier on Discovery this week.
no, no, we'll have to keep waiting for that.
That's true.
Which is frustration. So, A Night in Sickbay follows the events of Archer and crew and Porthos making first contact with a race that in which Porthos urinates on one of their sacred trees. And Archer is actually quite defensive of this.
Boy, were they pissed off.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of problems here that speak to exactly that discussion that was happening here in Star Trek Discovery. Archer thinking it's totally fine to bring your pet dog with you on first contact. And in defense of Archer, these people were okay with
sheer effing hubris.
the sheer effing hubris.
But go ahead. Not Bashir effing hubris.
Bashir's effing. Well, Bashir also has a lot of effing hubris too.
Yes, especially early on.
Yeah. But in defense of Archer, he must have informed these people that he is bringing Porthos with them, and they're like, okay, I guess this must be a real important part of their delegation.
What is a dog?
Yeah, exactly. What is a dog? Yeah. I guess it must be another species on their crew.
K9? Oh, I love Doctor Who. All right, we're getting the...
K9, I only know of K3s. I've seen the original series. Wait, that hasn't been invented yet. This is Enterprise.
But they've seen life support live, and we've completed the time loop. So we're big on Cretaceous.
Right.
I don't know. Bigger there than on Earth, apparently. Okay.
So there's a lot of and then how defensive Archer is of the whole situation. I think there's a lot of confirmation bias at play here. People apparently love this episode. Melody saying "Where no dog has gone before." Libby saying "I absolutely love this episode as I had two beagles growing up." Charlotte saying "Porthos." People love this episode.
Well, but there's some people that don't like the image of Porthos in the tank, even though they know it's the fake Porthos.
Yeah.
I've seen some people that like they can't stand this episode. But anyway.
Well,
it's like, what, you're against dog care?
Louis says Porthos would have made a better captain than Archer. Ouch. So, anyways, Larry, in this episode, we have talked about Ensign Kim, Morn, and Porthos. 3 characters we rarely
Ah,
get to talk about on this show.
the classics.
The classics.
Greats. The greats. That's what he says.
Great, great reference there. And then there's Scott who says, I thought this was a horrendous episode. Yeah, a lot of people really hate this episode for
We're
how
talking
Archer...
about Night in Sick Bay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not Galactic Barrier.
Let's talk about a great example from Lower Decks, Larry.
Which we've done before. I know we've brought this up before, but I couldn't resist. This is a case of looking at a bunch of clues and drawing the completely wrong paranoid conclusion. Looking at each other and drawing the wrong conclusions about the opposing sides. Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of case in point, confirmation bias, 100%.
Confirmation bias pointing. I don't know. That seems like that should be a thing too. But
Larry, what was the name? Do you remember the name of this episode?
Much Ado About Boimler.
Much Ado About Boimler. Yeah. And Mariner thinks that this person is. What does she think that she is? Mariner?
She thinks she's any number of Star Trek plot devices. She's a clone. She's she's from the mirror universe. That she's some kind of entity in human form that's malevolent or whatever.
And she thinks that Mariner is. Larry, what does that person think Mariner is?
Oh, she just thinks that Mariner's out to get. I mean, I might be wrong about this. This is no. This is not Much Ado About Boimler. Damn it. This is it's the one about Cupid's errant arrow.
Right.
Excuse me. Okay. Hey, it's only been a damn year. We haven't had 30 years to get this down. Okay?
I know.
Sorry.
Charlotte says, yes, this is the episode with my favorite Lower Decks line ever. That guy is a Kirk Sunday with a Trip Tucker sprinkles. That is a great line there. Yes. Glinda says, need more reasons not to say Trip Tucker sprinkles. It's a tough one to say.
Good thing his first nickname wasn't Fripp, but okay.
And Cairo says Lower Decks Veritas is also an example in confirmation bias, when everybody thinks the whole episode it's a trial and they find out it's a party. Yeah, Cairo, that's probably the better example, but it's an example that Larry, you and I have used in a lot of different situations
over and over. I think we've used this one too. There's got to be more than these 4 episodes of Lower Decks that we keep going. Back.
I know. But it's these are really great episodes. And Larry, there's another episode that
her name was Barbara Brinson, by the way. So beware of anybody with alliterative names. That's part of your confirmation bias.
That's true. Larry, you also had another episode of Enterprise, probably a more episode people like more than A Night in Sick Bay. Co-Janitor, yeah. Co-Janitor. That sounds like a 60s sitcom. Co-Janitor.
That would be an 80s sitcom.
Show me that co-janitor again. Okay.
There are wacky people with a wacky way to. I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't get there. Okay.
Would you like to talk about this one?
Yeah. Well, no. This is all about, and as we were texting our whole 20 minutes of prep on this show today. Actually, it was more than that, but it was. You said, you made the point, it's kind of baked into the nature of DNA of the show. That's what Enterprise was about, was learning lessons, and whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. It's almost like, well, okay, yeah. Hey, little Earth, as you venture out into the cosmos with your little baby steps here and your little Warp 5 ship. Yes, try not to make any big mistakes that are going to get you or the people that you rode in with blown up, And they come close a couple of times, and sometimes it's not their fault, but there's all kinds of shows where it's, oh, here we are learning, to get to Kirk stage and Picard stage. So it is happening over and over again, starting with, Trip getting pregnant and all that stuff accidentally or whatever. But it's like, get out of your own ruts, get out of your own biases, even if they're just benign ignorance. And this was a case where he's like, they're treating that third gender like crap, and it's only there to give them babies, and they treat them like they don't exist the rest of the time. And he brought all of his human-centric
Yes.
judgments to it. And Archer's kind of there with him, but he's like, no, But he's gotten to know the couple. He's personalized with the couple, and Trip has bonded with the cogenitor, and but Trips is like, no, I'm gonna change their whole culture by myself because I'm right. And that's the worst. That's all Prime Directive stuff. So this is another case of where confirmation bias it plays out as a different flavor of a potential Star Trek plot or a potential character dynamic or whatever.
I mean, yeah, it is a theme that keeps persisting in Enterprise. Is the humans kind of stumbling their way?
It's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point of the show. Yeah.
Yeah, humans keep stumbling their way through the cosmos and interpreting everything through their own biases. That is a lot of Enterprise, and Enterprise is both about that and also the novel way in which humans do approach these relationships is sometimes what helps to break apart some of the problems and create new alliances, which we see with the Andorians and the Vulcans. So that's great. But yeah, no, I think Cogenitor is a good example of that. Charlotte says, oof, Cogenitor is definitely not my favorite episode. Like, I get what they were trying to do, but it's blatantly biased towards binary cisgender views. Then compound it with tragic ending. Yeah, very problematic. I mean, this is one of the things is when we go...
It's from those ancient days of 2003, so go on, easy on them.
Things have changed at warp speed with how we understand gender and how we understand the spectrum here. And thankfully, we do have Enterprise, which has really been doing so much more to kind of show us.
Discovery?
What did I say? Did I say Enterprise?
Yes.
Wow. I meant Discovery.
Well, fortunately, we have Enterprise too, but it's okay. It's not the point you were making.
Can I stumble my own way to my favorite example of confirmation bias, Larry, and then we can open up the counselor's log here?
Yes.
I want to talk about Devil's Due.
Okay.
This is my favorite example of confirmation bias. This is a Next Generation episode that, honestly, when the first time I saw it, for whatever reason, it really stuck with me. I don't know. I think it kind of scared me.
You do know it's just a warmed over phase. Wow, you pulled an image and everything. Yeah,
I did.
I was just going, I was doing one image a series, like I always do. But yes,
it's my favorite example.
This is one of the two Phase 2 scripts they rewrote into Next Gen when they were hard up.
Oh, I didn't know that. Look at that, folks. A mini K3. So this was but this isn't an early season episode, is it?
It's 4th, 5th season.
Wow,
yeah.
And they recycled a Phase 2 story idea that late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. This is for those of you who might not remember. Is her
I wouldn't
name
lie about something like that.
Her name's
Ardra.
Not, yeah, what is her name, Larry?
Ardra. And I don't know why this is all coming. Yeah, it's Ventax 2, which was a great name of a star planet. Yeah.
See, I can remember stuff from old Trek so much better than I can like this week's episode. That's my.
Well, we haven't.
I know
it's
we haven't
not
seen it.
Confirmation bias. It's chronological, lineal reality that you haven't had it.
It's rehearsal.
Around.
So, the more you recreate memories, the stronger they get. And we recreate memories every time we think of something. So when we're talking about these episodes or we're watching them again, those memories are being strengthened. And New Star Trek just does not... I haven't seen these episodes and talked about them for years. They're not.
Yeah,
They don't. Yeah.
it's just a matter of math and
Right.
time. Yeah.
Right. It's math and
Power of
time,
time,
Jim.
people. What?
It's math and time, Jim. Um,
Not as we know it. Yeah.
hey, there we go. So I love this episode because this person is pretending to be the devil, and or like all the different versions of this type of
Well,
entity.
yeah, the devil for this planet, but
Right.
she tries to tell Picard and company that she's everybody's devil.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And she shows these she transforms into all of these different beings.
She's even Feklar.
It's all there in your head. This entire episode is all there in your head. And she what we find out is she's a con artist who has learned about this prophecy and has technology to be able to recreate these things. Now, confirmation bias, how is it at play? The people on this
It's the same thing as your Morn example, only she's being malignant with her. You know, Morn was using it as a survival tactic, but it's that playing on the expectations of other people's confirmation bias to get what you want.
Hey, look at that. The Mord episode comes back.
The Morn you know.
The more you know. So she confirmation bias at play. The people on this planet are interpreting the events through their cultural beliefs, through this prophecy. They can't see it in any other way, and they're willing to give up control of their planet to her. Again, confirmation bias. Picard and company are seeing it through the scientific method, and they are saying, like, I am not. My go-to is not that she's a devil. Like, there's got to be something at play, and they cannot believe or entertain that this is the prophecy coming true. They try to figure out what's going on in such a lovely, such a great climax at the end where Picard is able to recreate all of the same exact special effects and ask Ardra to like stop the earthquakes. And she can't.
You can do anything if you got a big enough budget. So yeah.
Yeah. It's it's a really great episode of a really great idea. It's a great episode that shows confirmation bias. And Larry, I think it's the first time we're ever talking about it. This episode.
Yes, on the nose, especially. Yeah. Where are we in the great span of things? I didn't go
we're
to
venturing close to the galactic barrier.
Had that? Yes, I thought we were going to get 5 light years away, but apparently we're stuck out here at 9 or 4 light years, but we're out here at 9. I love the way they did that. That was just a little tiny thing. It meant nothing, but I love the way they said, "Yes, Captain, the mycelial network gives out about 4 light years from the barrier." And then they pop out at 9, and she's like, "What happened?"
She's so annoyed. Yeah, Michael's like, "What?"
She's like, "Who knows?" It's like edgy, and it had nothing to. It gave them a little more time to be swimming around in plot complication, but I just love the kind of way it was like, you know what? We didn't just give an estimate and then have it be perfect and we move on. It was like, and it wasn't like the whole plot depended on it. It was just kind of in passing. It gave them more time to be in danger, but anyway. Then the whole thing, the giant blood cells that they had to jump in or stay. Are you in the iron-poor blood cells or are you in the iron-rich bloods? I feel like it was an old Geritol commercial. It was so bizarre, but anyway. And now I'm really dating myself, but okay.
So a lot of great examples from our community that I want to bring up before we go to the counselor's log. Cairo just said the thing on recreating memories plays into a lot into confirmation bias. You slightly rewrite your memories every time you recreate them, and you usually unintentionally make them fit your overall impression more and more each time. Cairo, I'm going to add to that. When you recreate a memory, which is also known as remember. Anyone can edit that memory. It's like a Wikipedia article. So new information from other people can impact that memory as much as your own experiences can. So our memories are the optimistic way of viewing it is your memories are very flexible. You're not stuck believing the same thing over and over. New information can change the way you understand past experiences. The less optimistic way of viewing that is your memories are very fallible. I take a middle course. I think there's a lot of amazing
Oh,
things
you
there,
would.
and there's a lot of problematic things. Yes.
Well, this whole way of looking at things. I mean, wait, somewhere earlier on, I think it was Rose who said. So basically, we're talking about rose tinted glasses as
Hmm.
far as on the benign side of things. I liked. Here's a case we looked right over, which is like a big picture. Nathaniel at 10:24. At 10:24, Nathaniel's talking about Eddington and
Yes.
said Eddington should be a walking example of confirmation bias, only seeing the struggles of the Maquis in the narrowest terms. But it's like
Yes.
everything, like you can be a not a bad guy, but you're like the hero of something, but everything fits toward how you're martyred or how you're downtrodden or how you know, you're aggrieved. You're the snowflake. Whatever you want to put to that. But even if you've got the moral high ground to a case, you could overindulge here on the confirmation bias, which is
Yeah.
bad because then you lose track of then when actual reality bites you, even if you're a good person trying to do a good thing, you have to guard against that because reality will bite and you'll be thwarted in your goals.
Did you
I
just
mean,
reference Reality Bites, Larry? This is yeah,
I did that.
interesting. Not what I expected us to reference. Eddington is a great example. Again, Eddington's one of those characters we could talk about forever. I love like what Zahir had to say. Picard and Riker at the Binars. Um,
At Binos. No,
at
Binos
Binos.
is
Yeah, the
is the
Binar.
Binar's planet.
Right.
Yeah.
Their data uploaded, misinterpreted as an attack. The Enterprise almost. Are you talking to
He's
Darmarki?
talking to Marion. Yeah, I was gonna wonder if you didn't pick that up. Yeah.
That is amazing. Picard and Riker
At Binos.
by
Yes.
the Binars, their data uploaded, misinterpreted as attack. The Enterprise
The
almost
Enterprise,
self-destructed.
almost self-destructed. hmm
So here
Minuet,
gets
left
extra
alone in
credit.
the holodeck. Yeah.
Larry, let's send him 1,000 points for that.
Light?
Uh,
What? Okay.
but that's a great example as well.
I'm just getting up here.
Um,
I'm an hour behind in the chat. I'm just so sad here. This has been kind of a meaty day, I think. Here at 10:25, Libby asks, is gatekeeping a form of confirmation bias? I mean, whether or not you like an episode or a fictional event is a matter of opinion.
yeah, I would say it. I mean, gatekeeping is one of
This is now
those.
turned into an AMA for
It
Dr.
has
Ali.
a lot of. It has its nasty hands in a lot of different problems. Confirmation bias could be definitely part of it. You interpret fandom needing to be a certain way or having certain opinions. And anything that deviates from what your impression is of what a fan is or what Star Trek is, it's very hard for you to interpret that as a Star Trek or as a Star Trek fan. I think we've seen that with Star Trek Discovery. So much of the social commentary of Star Trek Discovery is actually not so much, especially early on, season 1 and 2, it's not so much what they're doing, but who is featured in front of the camera as well as behind the
Mhm.
camera. That's a lot of where the idic of Star Trek is coming into play with Star Trek Discovery. And confirmation bias there, people watching it saying, this is not Star Trek. Or with the Kelvin timeline, the Enterprise being constructed on Earth. This is not Star Trek, even though it's a parallel universe, all of that sort of stuff. So I think or like you aren't talking or looking like what a Star Trek fan should be, and your brain sort of having a little misfire is what the hell is going on here. I think it definitely can be a part of it, but there's other stuff at play too, Larry. There's power structures. There's who gets
Mhm.
invited, who doesn't get invited. There's a lot of other stuff that can be involved in gatekeeping. Yeah.
Right, right, right. And then right after that, Nathaniel says, does this mean there is a connection between confirmation bias and conspiracy theories?
Yeah, yeah. Conspiracy theories are they're also very complicated and involve a lot of different things.
But it's
Um,
all about like what you choose to take in and how you see it.
totally. I think confirmation bias is
It's the
one.
cherry picking
Yeah,
extreme there.
it's is one of the strategies that makes it so hard to shake people out of the conspiracy theories they might believe in. I think one of the best ways to help people with conspiracy theory who believe in these conspiracy theories is to make them a big part of your life and not to make them disconnected so that they do get connected to these other communities. Um, I think alienation and isolation and loneliness are the things we should be really targeting to help people so they don't fall prey to a lot of the stuff that's out there. But yeah, confirmation bias is one way in which these things can be maintained. Scott mentioned encounter at Farpoint as an example of confirmation bias, and I think that's a good one to bring in. I think Scott, you were probably referencing the aliens at Farpoint Station or the alien at Farpoint Station, and how people are interacting with it, or
The big jellyfish,
yeah,
right?
the
Right.
big jellyfish. Zahir also mentioned Samaritan Snare. The Enterprise crew grossly underestimates the Pakleds because they appear slow according to Federation standards. Boy, did
Well,
they
they say it over
underestimate
and
them.
over again. They say we want things to make us slow. Oh wait, they say go. Okay, forget it.
Boy, did they underestimate them, Larry, because they come back with a punch in lower decks.
Right, right, right.
Right.
They obviously had tapped into some big, big, big anime supplier, and that turned the trick.
I mean, that episode, like Cogenitor, is one that really bothers me in retrospect. The disdain Picard has, it seems a little out of character to me. I would imagine he would be a bit more ambassadorial, if that's a word, to the Pakleds.
Diplomatic. Yeah,
Diplomatic. There we. That's a better
yeah,
word, Larry.
yeah. It's
Uh,
complicated, I know, but yeah.
Not as complicated as Bob. Apparently, I had a hard time with that one earlier today. It seems like he's holding very prejudiced views of people who have a different way of working intellectually, and I don't know. I don't think that holds up. I don't think that would be made in this way now. Um, Anyways, Zahir's got a lot of great examples here. Who watches the Watchers? A pre-industrial civilization sees Picard doing what they see as miracles and interpreting them as divinity. We see that to some degree in the beginning of Star Trek Into Darkness. We see that not so much in Insurrection. When that duck blind mission fails, everyone's like, nah, well, we had warp tech. We know there's other people
Well,
out
that's
there.
because, yeah, I mean, that's because the Baku are kind of pulling the Organian card there.
Right.
Ha! We're not who you think we are. Guess who's really watching who here? Ha ha. Yeah.
Cairo mentioned in TNG's First Contact, not the movie, the Malcorian Minister of Security is so biased.
Corolla? Yes.
If that's right, then
Wow.
I award
Okay.
you 50 points. Is so biased in any aliens being malevolent that anything Riker and even Picard do will confirm his suspicions and makes the whole story so the way it
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paranoid and xenophobic is what we'd say there. Yeah.
This makes me think of the Masterpiece Society and how that society is so, like, it can't even entertain the idea that someone with a disability or a visual impairment would have anything to offer, or that technology
They're having a hard time considering that people who aren't genetically engineered to be superior intellects have something to offer,
Yes.
much less someone
Yes.
who's in a
yes
deficit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great episode. Zahir says TNG the enemy, Geordi and the Romulan have a great opportunity to fight confirmation bias when forced to learn why each species acts the way it does. Well, isn't that a great
Well,
Star
here's
Trek
well,
lesson?
so Ali, isn't confirmation bias then just prejudice? Just basic old prejudice. We already have a word for this and all.
So it's like conspiracy theories as well as gatekeeping. Confirmation bias plays a role in prejudice, but prejudice is something that is it's more complicated. It's maintained by different systems, by popular culture. It's indoctrinated. It's taught, and confirmation bias is one tool that might maintain it and perpetuate it, but prejudice
When
is
there's
more.
an agenda and a power structure behind. But if you've got somebody who literally is unintentionally prejudiced, like they fall victim to their own
Oh, sure.
unexamined,
Bias.
they're not meaning to be,
Yeah.
or we see this a lot in the like 2020 and BLM where people say, "Oh, I'm not racist,"
Yeah.
and that was a cover. The people who said they're not are,
Right.
but there are a lot of people. There's all what is this allyship and all our newest buzzwords trying to get a handle on this phenomenon. But people who don't want to be malevolent still are trapped in things that it's just the unexamined,
Yeah, I mean,
like our
there's a lot of
yeah,
research that when
line.
you holding the belief that you don't see race can actually make you more vulnerable to race-based prejudice, and it's what you kind of do there is you deny that people of different races are experiencing the world differently. So yeah, that is a whole nother can of worms here. Larry, how about
Boy,
we
the chat must be exploding because I'm losing. I'm so far behind, but I'm losing the front end because we're populating at the back
Well,
end.
we're just losing
Uh,
structural integrity all over
how
the place,
about?
aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, Larry, given the time, how about I do a
Whoops.
combination counselor's log and away mission here?
How about you?
Uh,
It's like two. It's
there we go.
two bits in one.
Two
Yeah.
bits in one. So the
It's
away
the
mission.
rollates
The away
feature.
mission is a
Yeah.
part of the show where I give you some tools that might help you to deal with some of this stuff. And the counselor's log is where we do slightly deeper dive into the topic we're talking about. And with a deeper dive here, I wanted to share a couple of examples from the world of psychological research. And the first one I just wanted to point to. Confirmation bias, Larry, you kind of talked at the very beginning of the show. We're not talking about this as like a highfalutin thing. That's, I want that at a t-shirt. It's not a highfalutin thing.
I know. And I just dawned on me. I want to go see something that's lowfalutin, but go ahead.
If you want lowfalutin, you've come to the right place. I got a lot of lowfalutin content for you.
Oh, look at us. Yes.
So
Lowfalutinist. Da, 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 da. Okay. Wow.
so
Quick
there's
drum abroad, everybody. Thank you very much. Okay.
there's a couple of things I wanted to share here when it comes to confirmation bias. So the first is this
Oh,
is
I knew you were going to say that. Okay.
this is something that has often been talked about when it comes to research and researchers and science, because
Hmm.
scientists are very vulnerable to confirmation bias. And the early part, well, not, I shouldn't say the early part, but in the 1900s, I'm sorry, the 19th century, which was the 1800s, there's this whole what we now call scientific racism. A lot of
Yeah.
science was really supporting racist ideas and
The
was being,
size of the skull
yeah,
and yeah,
phrenology. Um,
phrenology. Yeah.
every aspect of science had this racist bent to it that was trying to support racist ideas. Science had been so used to support ideas of slavery and all of that sort of stuff, right? Well, a lot of those elements stuck around in the 1900s, and I've shared this example before, but it's one of my favorite examples of confirmation bias. A lot of the early and more recent intelligence research was used to support pretty racist ideas, and early on in the 1900s, some of the research around intelligence was used to show that minority populations, ethnic minority populations, had a slower response time. So response time meaning how quickly you react to something. It was shown that they were slower, and then this was supported as like, look, they are weaker when it comes to intelligence because they respond more slowly. Then a few years later, some of the same methods found that certain minority groups responded faster in response time. And then that research was shown to say, look at how primitive these groups of people are. They are less intelligent because they don't stop to reflect. They respond first.
They're more primal.
They're more
Yeah.
primal. Whereas,
Yeah.
the white race, these white men responded slowly. They're methodical. They're thoughtful. They're more evolved, right? So this is something that's been going
So
on.
whichever way you go, they're doomed.
Right,
They're
right,
dead.
right,
Yeah.
right. This
Yeah.
is something that's been long a problem in science and research, and it's something that continues to affect us today. There was some great research about the 2004 election in the United States. This was between John Kerry and George W. Bush, and people were
Hmm.
shown candidate statements about. Some real, some fake, some that people actually said that Bush or Kerry said, and some that they didn't. And regardless of what the statement was, people dislike the other candidate, the candidate that they didn't vote for, more than the candidate they liked, even if the statements were contradictory and went against what the person actually stood for. So this is something that happens all the time, and it's something we're not aware of. And people thought that, like, oh, okay, so if you make someone aware of it, it'll stop this. No, it doesn't. It's pretty automatic. And then people thought, okay, if you give people more information, this will stop it. No, not necessarily. That doesn't really seem to work. What seems to be helpful is locking in decision making earlier, before you're kind of exposed to this information. And this is in fact what scientists try to do, is they set up hypotheses and then look at the data, and using statistics try to see if it reaches certain set thresholds that would either support or reject your hypothesis. This is a long way of me saying that when we do help people think about how to make decisions about information in advance, they're a little bit better at dealing with confirmation bias. It's a very hard thing to do in your own life, but when you're dealing with big decisions that might that you're concerned you might make the wrong decision because of your own biases, it's a good idea to sit down and think through, how can I make the best decision here before you have to make that decision. So things like moving, taking a new job, making a big life decision, decisions about relationships, all of this sort of stuff. It's a pretty good idea to sit down in advance, talk to a few different people, and write down how you would actually make this decision. What
Hmm.
information would you rely on? What information will support you doing the thing or not doing the thing in
Pros
advance?
and cons. Yeah.
Yeah, and
The
doing
old
that in
pros and
advance before that stuff comes up. That makes it a little bit easier to avoid some of the confirmation bias here, Larry. Um,
cons. Hmm.
so I don't know if that. I'm feeling like I'm in Larry Nemecek land. I don't know if I surprised you in any way here with this counselor's log, but this is a very tough problem to address.
Hmm.
Easier to address.
When was the okay, here's the thing. When was the term even coined?
I mean, you have the term confirmation bias might be more of a 20th century thing, but
No, that's a big sense. Okay.
philosophers have been talking about this idea for thousands of years.
I get that. I hope
Yeah.
so. But I'm just talking about the term. Is
I
this like an 80s term? A
No, no,
90s
no. It goes
term?
back. It goes back farther than the 80s. I might be able to answer for that for you during the K3 factor. Uh,
Way back to the 70s? I mean, what do you mean there?
no, it goes farther back. But let
Hmm.
me see if I can find the answer to that. It's a good question, but I think it's
Okay.
definitely the 20th century. Yeah, it's when
Okay.
20th century is when more of the the rigorous research methods sort of came into
Okay.
play.
Well, 20th century covers a lot of ground. I mean, the 20s and 30s were still wacky. So, I
I'll see
mean,
if I can find an
the
answer for you,
40s and
Larry.
50s. Okay.
In the
But
meantime,
I take it that you want, you've already gone back again. I take it you want to press on to the
I
K3.
would love a K3, a little
Okay.
K3 refresher here.
This is K3 Under Pressure. This is a short and sweet one because I knew that there would be cases to think about today's theme in the guise of, rather than on-screen Star Trek, backstage Star Trek, which, hey, everybody, this is what we do in Trekland. Um, and this is a case where the obvious one hit me, and I was like, no, 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 everybody knows this. I'm going to try to find one a little more obscure with somebody else involved. And then I thought, no, I'll just do this because I was tired by then. And maybe this will surprise a few people. Maybe my confirmation bias is that this is another case of, oh, everyone knows this. So maybe not, or maybe to this depth. But I sent you an image. It's a very famous part of a very famous, we've talked about it already today, I think, maybe, but of the movie, the characters anyway. But can you put up the Khan picture?
Larry, I'm looking for this image. Did you send me this image?
Yes, I sent you two that say K3 like usually.
Okay, let me double check here. I don't know
Wait a
if
minute.
I
I
got.
better have.
I don't think I got them, unless you want to send them to me now. I see it in your email that you said you sent them.
Guess what? Okay, my confirmation bias is that how about that?
Do you want to
How
send them
about
to me
that?
now while I answer your
That
question
limb.
about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold
Okay.
on a minute. Hold on a minute. Where are we? Where's the folder? How many we've done this for 85 times and I don't think I've ever done this. So I have to keep it fresh.
While
And
you're
like,
sending that to me, I do have an answer to your question. Psychologist Peter Wasson coined the term confirmation bias in 1960, I believe. So not that long ago. Doesn't surprise me that it
okay.
was in the
But
60s.
it was probably a very eggheady term for the first 20 or 30 years it was out. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, it was. Well, and also it was first described as Watson's rule discovery test, based on based on
well, yeah, we're all going to remember that.
based on some of the research that he was doing. But that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. There was a lot of social psychologists were doing research in the 60s coming out of a lot of the stuff that happened in World War II and trying to understand why would people do the things that they did
Oh, the Germans
in the
following Hitler
German.
instead of
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So you had Stanley Milgram, you had Solomon Ash, you had a lot of these really well-known.
I sent them,
Got
by
it.
the way.
You had a
Okay.
lot of these well-known psychologists starting to ask some of those questions, and it makes sense to me that the idea of a confirmation bias would sort of come into play then. All right, Larry, I've got the two images.
Yep, there's one that's on camera, there's one that's behind the
Yeah, you want the
scenes. So
on-camera one?
I want the on camera one
You got
first.
it. You got it, my friend.
Look at this turnaround. Look at this crisis response. Now then. So,
I know this
yeah, so
movie.
do you know this movie?
I
Do you know
know.
this moment?
It's a little movie starring one of the often neglected villains of Star Trek.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I thought this villain deserved a little bit of a second look. So, and carrying around a lot of confirmation bias on his own there. No, I mean, do you know, can you even tell what people who've seen this movie 40 times might know exactly like what the line before or after this moment is? What Khan is saying right here.
Oh, I know it.
I don't know.
You. I know.
I never forget a
I never forget
face.
a face, even one I haven't met yet.
Mr. Chekhov. I never forget a face. Now, I'm not talking about Khan or Chekhov or anybody in the scene, since we're K3ing here. We're going behind the scenes. So the movie is written, this all happens, and it's not a pivotal moment, but just the moment, every moment with Ricardo Montalban playing Khan could be a pivotal moment.
That's true.
But
That's true.
he makes it that way, which is a thing on him being a great actor. Uh, but behind the scenes, when this was like they were watching either when they were watching the dailies, like the dailies filmed the next day, or when they were watching a rough cut. At one point, Richard Arnold, who's now left us, but was Gene Roddenberry's trivia nerd for a long time, trivia brain, and then was an assistant with Susan Sackett until Gene died, and then he was booted because of his arrogance. And I can be blunt because Richard was many things. He's passed now, so it's fine. Richard was many good things. Unfortunately, he was what we call a complicated person. But actually, one of the things that he did right here, he probably didn't grease the skids that well about it. But they're sitting in a screening, and here's Harv Bennett, and it was problematic for Gene to even do notes since he'd been demoted, right? He was glorified consultant.
Right.
So they're generating notes all the time. So there's a kind of a thing. But I think I always heard the stories they were sitting in the screening live, not sitting next to each other, probably like a few seats down or like a row back and over. But this scene goes by, and it's like a slap in the face. And Richard's like, Chekhov wasn't on the Enterprise when Khan was there. And now Richard was in that purest of fan positions that we all are. The minute someone's watching the Galactic Barrier and says, wait a minute, they went to the Galactic Barrier 3 times. Well, I have an easy answer for that. But in the day, in 1982, Richard basically did a telegraph. Richard told Susan told Gene told Harv Bennett. Chekhov wasn't on the ship when Khan's episode, and Harv Bennett's famous reply that Richard used to tell, and then later on Harv would admit to it because they had success later on. Harv said, "Oh, no one's gonna notice that." Like, are you kidding me? We're trying to make this movie and save the franchise. Huh? Like I said, and this is the same Harv Bennett that sat down and took fans' advice and screened every episode, came up with the choice before he had Nick Meyer involved, came up with the idea about using Khan, and then went the thing. This is the same guy who was smart enough to consult with fandom and keep a pipeline going, and even if it was like to keep a shiny PR front, like the way J.J. Abrams did, go out and pick some fans to be your allies because they're so thrilled you reached out to them. I mean, there's a little bit of manipulation there, but he didn't do that.
The 1 month
he didn't do Ivory Wall. Well, Ivory Tower.
Larry, I just want to say, when they did the screening of Wrath of Khan, the fan screening, stopped it 5-10 minutes into it. Leonard Nimoy walked out and said, "This is a great movie, but do you all want to see the new Star Trek film?" And they screened that film a month in advance. That is the same exact thing.
Dallas, I think.
Yeah, I think it was in Dallas, and I wasn't there, but I read about it. That's kind of the thing you were talking about here.
It is,
wasn't it? Like
no. This is on the lot. No, this is a screening in the screening room on the lot.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Okay.
No. It wasn't that far along.
Okay.
No, this was like when they're just watching. They're just in a screening room, seeing what's been assembled so far, or it's a rough cut.
Okay.
That's what I meant by a screening. I meant a
got it.
Process screening, not a public.
Yeah.
Even a secret public screening. It's not that. This is still in house.
Yeah. Charlotte's asking, did the docs just confuse themselves?
Response was, "Oh, no one's going to know that." Now. What happened the minute the movie aired? People loved the movie, but everybody immediately started ridiculing Khan not knowing Chekhov, or how did he know Chekhov?
And not only is it how did he know Chekhov, but like it's the scene. I never forget a face. It's the line
and the delivery. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not something you can easily sweep under the rug. And then you had like Walter Khan of Wrath even, at the Ultimate Fantasy, he debuted the story about many people wonder why, well, that Walter didn't talk like that. How did this happen? Is it what we don't know? And then people retconned it. Oh, well, Chekhov didn't he was barely an ensign. He was only a couple of months there. He didn't have bridge duty yet, but he was down below decks, and what was it? Oh, his story is like Khan is down waiting on the bathroom to open up, and this young kid comes out the door, and Khan's been waiting on the bathroom for 10 minutes and says, what is your name? And he's like, Chekhov. And he goes, Mr. Chekhov, I never forget a face. And that was like the joke that they turned out of it. But basically, the basic retcon, well, Chekhov was on the ship. He just wasn't doing bridge duty where a camera was,
Yeah.
So that but my point is sometimes I call that, you might call that arrogance. You just might call that, the new people coming in, the arrogance of the new is what I call that sometimes. People come in, and it's not that they intend to do, but their perception of what is cool and new and what people want hasn't been shaped by any audience feedback or focus grouping or anything. And they just do. And sometimes you go with your gut and it's great, but sometimes if you're in a business where you're trying to predict what the public will want and you're a little bit arrogant in what you think, or even if you make a mistake, you don't listen to the feedback at first until it bites you really big time. Your movie flops, or your product fails, or you took a shortcut and it burns, or it crashes, or whatever. But that was a case where I just always. But he learned. After that he always took steps to cover their ass a little bit better than that. I think the first year of Discovery went through that kind of phase. But I think anytime new people come to a project that haven't been in the trenches, with it, no matter what they say, they may have all the best of intentions. But anyway, that was the case. So I always love that just moment in time where your words come back to haunt you.
And Larry, no
one's going to notice that. Welcome to Star Trek fandom.
You had this image, this behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This is from the wrap party, I believe.
Yeah, this is from. Well, I think it wasn't from the party, but they took they're on the Genesis Bowl cave thing there. I like the way Harv is holding the picture of. Like, oh no, he died. But
is he holding a picture of Gene?
It's Yeah, Gene's not in the picture, I don't think. I was looking for Gene because I was looking to see if Richard and Susan were standing next to him, and I didn't see Gene, much less Richard. I was trying to find a picture that was because there's nobody taking a picture of a screening, and this just hit me as what a screening might have looked. Except this is tons of crew in here too that wouldn't have been at a screening. But anyway, there's Harv Bennett there holding the Leonard photo.
Yeah.
But I just think that's hysterical.
Yeah. As Charlotte said, I love how Shatner's in uniform, but Montalban looks like he's about to board the love boat. That is exactly what
he might have been. Yeah.
Yeah, he might have been.
Well, it looks like they're standing in the Genesis Cave set. So who was in the Genesis Cave shot?
Right.
They're in costume. Everybody else is not. So.
Larry, this is a random K3.
Had you heard that story?
No, I hadn't. All
right, there's my confirmation bias on myself.
I do.
Everybody's heard this. No, it's so old.
No, I love hearing that story. As Cairo said to me, nobody will remember the nobody remembers story is a bit of sheer effing hubris there. Larry, quick question for you. Do Ricardo Montalban and William Shatner, were they ever on set the same day? Did they ever? They don't really perform.
They had no scenes together.
Yeah, no scenes in the physical same space. Do they perform?
Well, they're standing there together in that photo. So
yeah. No, but did they ever? I guess I should say, did they ever record? Did they ever film at the same time? I'm guessing no, right?
No, not. But now the thing might have been like some of those intense. I should look this up. Some of those, like the whole Khan screaming moment when they're baiting each other. Mm-hmm. If Ricardo was like, instead of just having the script supervisor reading the lines, the offstage, when you've got a view screen scene, right? Or you're on a comm line and you're talking to somebody else. Usually the prompter, the script supervisor would read the line. You know, a lot of times when it's like a long day and that's just a little pickup scene, the real actor will stand over there and give you something. And then the sound of her voice, they made a big deal about how the faceless Captain What's Her Name, the actress, stood there on set and actually acted with them because
Yeah.
that was the whole show.
Yeah.
But usually you're just having the line fed as a prompt. Maybe because it's a movie and because they're on a slower pace, I should research this. If Ricardo, and maybe somebody even knows right here, I have
Well,
not thought
Scott
about this. So,
Scott
but
says
he might have been on stage feeding lines. Is what I'm saying.
Scott says if
Or
I
back.
recall, they never filmed together, and what they did film was probably weeks or months apart due to Montalban's Fantasy
Right,
Island
right, right.
schedule. Yeah.
Now, but my point is they're obviously there to get now. Whether they're only there together in the picture because they were taking a picture and they told everybody, and they've got most of the crew are sitting back there, the poor guys in the back that no one knows who they are, but they're there, cool on them. Or whether there were some days maybe that they had him come in to feed lines off camera when they're doing the view screen stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, they must have had a table
for
read.
the most part, yeah, they never had a scene on camera together.
They must have had a table read. They must have had something at some point where they at least got the rhythm down. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
All right, folks. Well, let's open up those hailing
I'm
frequencies.
glad I got you with such a simple K3. Yay.
You got me, sir. Well, let's open up the hailing frequencies, and we're gonna actually start with a little bit of an announcement here, Larry.
Oh, that's right. This is it.
Yeah. So when we started the show, we famously said that we are gonna go on for the duration, referencing
World War II.
World War II. And boy, have we dured.
Durated.
Durated. So, folks, we gotta the sad news is this chapter of Life Support Live is going to be coming to an end soon. However, and there's an important reason for it, which is good news, and which I'll get to. However, in some form and another, Life Support Live will be continuing. So what we want folks to know is the good news is the reason why this form of the show is coming to an end is my family is growing. We're expecting a baby coming in May, and increasingly, my very increasingly in size pregnant wife.
Oh, wait, that's going this way.
That's going that way. Yeah. It's like the universe. The universe is expanding.
Life freedom is doing this.
Well, that's
your
happening.
wife is doing this.
Yeah. Increasingly, my pregnant wife is having a harder time handling my daughter during Life Support Live. That's becoming a challenge, as you all heard a few episodes back. But also, like, we're due in May, and we want to be able to wrap up this chapter of Life Support Live on our terms and not have it wrapped for us by circumstances that are beyond our control.
Oh no!
And all the congratulations are pouring in. Thank you, folks. This is really exciting. My daughter is super excited.
Well, you did the best you could with a reason. So
my daughter is super excited to be a bossy older sister. We're expecting.
Oh boy.
We're expecting a baby boy, and so we're pretty excited to see what's going to happen here. So thank you everyone. And as Linda said, it is sad too to be wrapping up this version, but let's share.
I want to be very clear
Yes.
about this. Yes, we really enjoy doing this.
Yes.
It's a grind being up till 3 a.m. on Friday, though, sometimes to get up at 9. Yeah. But what I wanted to be very clear about was it'll be good for us to take a break.
Yeah.
It'll be good for you to adjust your home life, I guess. I may, And we both have things going on in life that's increasing. For one thing, we started this in the pandemic, and we all know what that looked like. It was miles and miles of text. No, it was miles and miles of nothingness. And I, for one, and you did too, we wanted to do something and serve the community and maybe find a unique way to do that. And I still think it's pretty unique.
Yeah, I mean,
but it has been and I know what's funny is it's not quite 2 years because we started in, I think, April.
We started in April of 2020.
You've got a hard deadline coming up there that you want to have time to prep for. So, but what I wanted to be, I enjoy doing this, and
Yeah,
what I
me
wanted,
too.
and I know we've got such a great small but devoted following, and maybe more fans to find us as time goes by. But I wanted to keep the door open, and you were
Yeah,
open to this,
yeah,
uh, gang, crew, lifers, that we're going to keep this open as a concept, as a format for live events, for like cons, maybe an occasional special.
yeah.
Like I was loosely saying maybe quarterly, but don't hold me to that. But maybe as new shows come and go, end and start, new series or whatever, occasion maybe holidays, something. But we're going to keep the brand is not dying,
Yeah.
guys. We're not going to have the weekly show will stop, but we were not going to let this go completely. So
Yeah, we think of it as this chapter of Life Support Live
mm,
is ending. As all good things must come to an end, this chapter is
mm.
ending. However, Larry is right. It is something that Larry is really important, I think, to both of us. This whole concept started out as an idea of doing a live panel. We need to do a live panel at some point. Like having some
Yeah.
kind of live event is in our future. We will do that at some point. And the other thing that we really like doing, sometimes it's hard to keep this up. Like this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery gave us some clear directions, but a lot of times there aren't a lot of clear directions. So we might do, like Larry was saying, specials. So we might do special watch-alongs, or we might do like season ending kind of like discussions about like, well, what does this whole season of Strange New Worlds really
I
mean?
believe I said that, Doctor. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so we're gonna do some special stuff. The Facebook group is gonna continue. The podcast is gonna be there. The whole archive of this stuff.
Maybe you'll even visit
Um,
the Discord page.
yeah, we might. We're gonna have some stuff. So here's a plan,
Do some
folks.
live
This
chat.
is not the last episode. This is just
Right.
when we're telling you all. Next week, March
In
5th,
fact.
we're going to
Hmm.
be tackling. We're coming full circle here, Larry. We're going to be talking about Star Trek Picard. Our first episode was about Star Trek Picard, the whole season one.
Hmm.
Um, March 5th, our next week's
The whole
episode
plot.
is going to be about the Star Trek Picard premiere. Who knows what it's going to be about? March 12th, we're going to be talking the Star Trek Discovery finale. So we're going to be hopefully know what the heck
Hmm.
is going on with the DMA. March 19th will
Yeah, hold
be
on. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
March 19th will be the last episode of this version of Life Support Live,
Our weekly finale.
our weekly finale. Now, what that episode is going to be, we're not sure yet. We'd love to hear your ideas. We want to make it special.
Yes.
We want your ideas of what you'd like to see in the weekly finale.
We want to do something besides just the same old, same old.
Yes, yes. Larry, you were about to say something.
I want to say two things, and this was not planned. It's just the way this
Yeah.
has come down the pike on two different layers. Number one, it just turns out that weekend, that Saturday, our finale of the weekly show will be part of the schedule for Virtual TrekCon 3. So
Yeah.
we may have a lot of may have a lot of new faces coming in to see us in the weekly, but we can point them back to all the video and or the podcasts. And should I tell them about the geographical thing here?
If
This
you're
is
sure
this is
about it,
always
if you
this is I'm totally sure.
okay, if you're
Unless,
sure, then go
guys,
for it. Yeah, tell them. Tell them.
you know what is the insurance agent? This is not about theology. The insurance industry uses the term acts of God, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Pending an act of God, it just so happens that Janet and I are going to be in the Bay Area that weekend. So we thought it just worked out
We
by timing
will
that we've did
likely,
this once before.
yeah, we'll likely be doing the last show in person together.
He and I will be together without the line
Yeah,
here.
yeah. This line. No,
So we'll
I
be
keep
live
pointing the wrong
together
there.
for our finale with a special format of something and part of Virtual TrekCon 3.
Yep. So we're gonna make it special, folks.
Start line. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, and as Nathaniel is saying, so this isn't an end game because you leave behind might sadden us. So no, this is not an end
Yeah,
game.
these are not the voyages because that was a horrible finale. But yes, all good things. Yeah.
So our last episode of the weekly show will be in person, which is super exciting for me too.
Mhm.
I'm very excited about
Only
this.
now it's not across town from where I'm staying. I'll have to drive an hour to get
Yeah,
to
you're
you.
gonna
So
you're gonna have a
it'll
little
be
bit of a
like
drive. I'll have
you
the Dr.
complain
Pepper
about
ready
getting
for
up
you.
at 9 after 4 hours sleep, Larry, but now hold my beer. We're going to do it one last time.
I'll have the Dr. Pepper ready for you to go. Charlotte's asking, will the schedule of all this be posted? Yes, it will. And Jared's asking, will you be talking about the Discovery finale before it airs? No. So there should be 2 more episodes, I believe, which is
Yeah, they're going to overlap. This is going to be we haven't been here since 99 too, but we're going to have overlapping 1 hour drama shows
I
for two
think I
weeks.
think there's 2 more episodes. If there's 3
Mhm.
more episodes, then our schedule here is a little bit messed up. But
There are 2 more Discovery. There'll be 2 weeks where the new Picards and the last Discoveries overlap.
Jared says there's 3 more episodes.
Okay. I thought it was 2, but
We
maybe there's
might,
3.
yeah, yeah. We'll work it out. We'll talk
Mhm.
about stuff. Don't worry. Don't worry. Um,
I
so
think we're doing good to be as planned and on top of it as we are. So,
yeah,
yay.
yeah. So a few comments that with our hailing frequencies here. Cairo says it's a sad thing that's been going on. That Life Support Live has been going on for almost 2 years, and the pandemic is actually still not over. You know,
But hey, we've got a major ground war in Europe to talk about now that can occupy our time too,
yeah, it's a
which we haven't said a word about today, but I saw lots of people making comment about that. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Cairo. That is, I think about that a lot because we did say for the duration, and we are not in endemic territory yet.
Mm.
This is
Maybe
still a uncertain.
steps.
Yeah, it's a still a quite uncertain circumstance. And Cairo also says, Ollie, will your circumstances allow you to visit any conventions this year? The thing I have learned from my first go of this, Cairo, is it's hard to expect anything during that first year of a new life form entering the world. So I have no idea. I have no idea. We will definitely have some kind of live events that Larry and I will do in the near future, and I'm
Hmm.
sure Larry, you probably already have something scheduled for this year.
This year and working on next year, but you know what keeps popping up about this time of year is the time we've met and first were on stage together. You
WinterCon.
and Drea's, yeah, Star Wars versus Star Trek, which always sounded, more slap
The
down.
psychology of Star Trek versus Star
The
Wars.
psychology of Star Trek versus Star Wars, yeah, which is supposed to be sounds confrontational, but it wasn't. Except no one told your Star Wars guest that it wasn't
It's
confrontational.
okay because the last time we did it live, no one told our Star Trek guests, and that person really, yeah, had not so much the idic tone there.
Yeah,
Scott
but
says,
I was rereading it. I liked how we were outnumbered 2-1 by Star Wars people in the audience, but everybody decided that the Star Trek people won the. Yeah,
well, you had that line. Well, most of the Star Trek fans are at work.
yeah, yeah.
Scott says, please do it again when it's both fun for you, whenever you want. Don't stress out about any kind of regularity at this point. The lifers will be here. Just my two
Mm-hmm.
quad quaditos.
My two quatloos,
Quatlus.
my 2 cents, my
Yeah,
two
I get
quatloos.
it. I get it. A
Wow,
little
are you
slow in
sure
the
that
uptake.
baby's not here already? Okay.
A little slow in the uptake. And Scott, that's the thing. We want it to be fun, and we will. The watch-alongs are always so much fun for me, and one of my favorite things has been having a regular time to talk Trek with all of you. So we'll definitely
Mm-hmm.
do that. Like I'm gonna have opinions and things I want to talk about with Strange New Worlds. It's gonna happen,
Yep, yep.
and we will find a way to do it. And as Charlotte
The
says,
show and the fandom reaction to it.
yeah.
So yeah.
Charlotte says Ollie's got a headlock on the English language today. Yes. I think the English
Ian
language
Blob.
has a headlock on me.
Ian Blob. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. There's our news, gang.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 more after this, I think. So the 19th will be our. And I know somebody might say, well, why don't you just go to an even 2 years or an even 100 or what? That just wasn't going to work. So
We'd love to, but the thing is, the closer we get to May, the more uncertainty there. I mean, we have no idea when this baby is coming. The baby's going to come when it wants to come. The souffle will rise. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. And so I waited. And it all blew up in my face.
yeah.
So no, we'd rather end on our terms. We'd love to make it to 100 episodes. We'd love to make it to our 2-year anniversary, but that puts us into the danger zone of losing control of the show and it potentially going off in a way that we don't want it to. So, and Nathaniel says there's not enough coffee in the nebula for that new baby. Yes.
Yeah. Melanie, I just saw a chat here at the end. She says no more regular Saturday and Tuesday chats. We're ending Life Support Live, but gosh, do I have it handy here? My Trekland Tuesdays live show on Tuesdays. Nothing's changing.
Actually, that is exactly what Zahir said. Hey, I've heard of Trekland.
Hey, Scott just helped me get a new logo. This is not going anywhere, everybody. I'm still going to be live on Tuesdays. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think one of the other things about Life Support Live, this chapter of it ending, but in some form it continuing. Larry, if we do these seasonal specials or watch-along specials, we can do them at different times too. So we can do them at times that might capture different audiences. There's a lot of people who watch Life Support Live back later because they can't make it for the live version.
You don't have to do it at 10 a.m. on Saturday.
We don't have to do it on Saturday mornings, which I think our partners...
Because our original time was noon, I'm just going to say.
I think our partners would appreciate it being at different times too.
Ourselves would appreciate it being at different times.
Yeah.
But I almost everything I do, I try to do it where it's got some inkling of a global, ability.
And
however we can play the time zones.
I like how Libby says, well, you'll make it to 100 episodes, just not weekly. And that's how we're thinking about this, folks. This is, as Dave says, baby determines schedules, and the weekly version of this has determined by the baby is not happening. But it will happen in some form or another. Thank you for the support, folks. There's so much Star Trek coming for us to discuss. There's a lot of it, an overwhelming amount, you might say.
We have only yet just begun, or something.
The human adventure, the Life Support Live adventure is just beginning.
It's just beginning.
All right, Larry, what do you got cooking in Trekland as our lovely music begins to play here?
Well, as I said, Tuesday's Trekland Live is going nowhere. It's going to be right here 1 p.m. Pacific ish, 4 Eastern every Tuesday. So join me there. And the Trek Files is still coming out. My podcast with Roddenberry is coming out, and we are getting back into. Hopefully, we can start opening things up. If anyone's going to Vegas Trek. Just a reminder, I need to put this on my website, but we're offering the 1-day tour out to the Valley of Fire, the Kirk Memorial Tour, I call it, the day before the con opens, which is 1 day shorter. So the con opens on Thursday now, and that will be on the Wednesday before. But there's some exciting tour things happening. Terrace and I are going to be offering the big tour around LA with some new things, LA and San Francisco next summer. Not before any convention. It's going to be in July. I'm telling you guys some random things that aren't totally posted yet here, so hang in there. And I started to offer a Gene Roddenberry historical life tour in LA. Last summer we had to postpone it. That's going to come over his birthday, which will be right before the moved Vegas Con this year. It'll be the weekend before that. So there's a lot of stuff boiling up like that. So for good coming up. So stay tuned, everybody. I'm not going anywhere.
Charlotte says, and just to confirm, there's still weekly shows leading up to March 19th. Yes.
Yes.
We are weekly for about the next, just about
3
the
weeks.
next month.
Yeah.
So
the 5th, the 12th, 19th.
Yep, we got March 5th, we're back. That's a week from now. March 12th, we're back. That's 2 weeks from now. March 19th is our finale spectacular.
We were not about to tell you on the 19th. Oh, well, bye. This is the last one.
And we'll post all of this. Don't worry, folks. I am, as always, at Ollie Mattu on social media. I was on the Feminist Frequency podcast this week talking about Star Trek Discovery. Check that out if you're interested in more Discovery thoughts. The Psych Show on YouTube is where I make my videos every now and then. And until next time, folks, we're going to be talking Star Trek Picard next week, season 2 of that. Looking forward to it. Until then, folks, live long, prosper, my friends.
I guess the music's ending. Trek well, everybody.